revolutionizing traditional financial systems. Advocates say it has the potential to make the current financial system more efficient, accessible, and faster. We're talking about decentralized finance, or DeFi, a financial system without banks, without a middleman executing your transactions. Instead, you have smart contracts, or computer code that automates the process.
Anything you would go to a traditional financial institution for, like high-yield savings, borrowing, lending, trading, investing, those are all things that can be found in DeFi.
Decentralized finance has captured only 5% of the crypto space, but it has attracted massive growth. There is $93 billion worth of DeFi assets in the crypto market as of June 2021, up from $4 billion just 3 years ago.
The really massive creative power of DeFi is how quickly developers can iterate and build financial applications. That was really never possible in finance.
The pace of DeFi has slowed since the summer of 2020, and regulatory scrutiny from Capitol Hill has spiked over fears of crypto's checkered past. Here's how decentralized finance works, and why lawmakers and the financial establishment are keeping an eye. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, can be described as an ecosystem of financial applications and projects built on top of blockchain technology.
The whole point is that they're decentralized, which means that whoever you're transacting with, you're doing it directly with them rather than through a traditional financial institution like a bank or an exchange or a brokerage. So rather than having one of those traditional entities mediate the transaction, it's mediated by smart contracts, which are self-executing contracts according to the code, which, includes the details of the agreement with you and the other person.
Most DeFi projects are built on Ethereum because it was one of the first programmable blockchains that can handle smart contracts. Most DeFi protocols are governed by their own communities, or what's known as a decentralized autonomous organization, DAO for short. Only the members who've invested in an individual project's token get to vote on the protocol's future. It removes the control from one person. The crypto industry was born in reaction to the 2008 financial crisis. DeFi's goals stem from that and give users control and visibility of their own money without a third party.
A mainstream user can either decide to go directly and use these protocols, or might be indirectly using some of the traditional financial intermediaries at the same time. But the main difference here is that the user will have a choice that you either can rely on someone, or you can manage your own cryptographic assets and your keys by yourself. And it brings kind of like the finance as a human right for the users.
If we start to see DeFi actually impacting things like making it easier for small businesses to access credit at a larger scale, easier for people to access mortgages or other kinds of examples of providing some sort of real benefit, then it'll actually start to be easier to understand sort of how it works and the point of it.
During the summer of 2020, interest in decentralized finance began picking up. The total value locked in the space grew from $7.8 billion on June 20th, 2020 to $19.4 billion on September 21st, 2020. The total value locked is a metric used to assess how much crypto is committed to a smart contract of a project.
Since 2018 to 2020, we saw the rise of automated market makers, which for the first time bootstrap liquidity and allowed these decentralized exchanges to become much more liquid than they were. And at the same time, we also saw an increased development activity on the user front end and made these applications much easier to use.
Most DeFi projects or protocols can be categorized into 4 main buckets: decentralized exchanges, lending platforms, asset management, and derivatives. Decentralized exchanges and lending platforms were the areas that grew the most during DeFi summer, so we're going to highlight those. Decentralized exchanges, or DEXs, are cryptocurrency exchanges that allow users to trade without giving control of their funds to an intermediary. One of the leading DEXs is Uniswap, an automated market maker protocol built on Ethereum that has risen due to its liquidity offerings.
So a lot of crypto assets try to do everything. Uniswap does one thing. It tries to compete with Coinbase. And it's interesting because there is massive trading volume on Uniswap. It's trading $40 or $50 billion of crypto per month. It's generating hundreds of millions of dollars of fees.
The developer of Uniswap, Uniswap Labs, is currently under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Decentralized finance allows anyone to borrow and lend cryptocurrency. Users can earn interest when they loan their assets. They can also borrow other cryptocurrencies by using their current funds as collateral. Stani Kolechov is the founder of Aave, one of the first and leading DeFi lending protocols.
Cryptographic assets these days can be Ethereum, so-called stablecoins. Aave protocol allows actually to supply these kind of assets into the protocol, and then there are other participants that are taking those funds out of the protocol against a collateral, which means that it generates yield for the suppliers. It's a place where you can grow your cryptographic assets in form of interest yield.
DeFi continues to expand and you go from 100 billion to 500 billion, 600 billion. The banks are going to have to start realizing, hey, there's actual real competition here as assets are flowing into the DeFi ecosystem and away from us.
Decentralized finance has attracted Wall Street veterans and developers alike. It has pushed crypto's potential from being simply a digital currency to a software tool that can be used to improve the antiquated traditional financial system, thanks to the programmable qualities of Ethereum.
The thing about crypto that gets traditional financial people so excited is that as a technology, it solves all that. It allows money to move onto the internet. It allows you to program money. It creates digital property rights. It introduces efficiency and creates the potential to disrupt an industry that is one of the least efficient in the world.
Investors have been on the hunt for yield as interest rates remain low. DeFi protocols have offered opportunities to chase yield through a method known as staking.
A lot of these assets you can stake and you receive a reward, and that reward gives that token some value or some aspect to it that you can then kind of derive what that asset should kind of be worth. There is almost like an income that can be generated from staking these rewards, from mining it, or some other process.
On the institutional side, a lot of the ones that you're seeing start to jump in are the hedge funds. They are able to be a lot riskier, so they're able to experiment more.
One of the key drivers is that there is a lot of need for leverage. So many of these protocols, what is happening is that you are able to unlock capital, and to unlock capital, when you deposit, let's say, cryptographic assets into the Aave protocol, you're borrowing cash, which means that you need cryptographic stable coins, and that means that the yield on that cash and the cost is going higher. And what usually is the typical use case is that you take the cash and you buy more of that particular asset and you are leveraged position. Decentralized finance is like the electric car in the automobile industry. So, everyone kind of knows that that's the future, but car companies will still make cars. They will just make electric cars instead.
Regulatory concerns, though, continue to hang over the entire cryptocurrency industry and could stunt DeFi's growth.
There's not a lot of KYC implementation that could even be collected because a lot of this is just a decentralized open source system. There's not really an account that's collecting information. So some of the information sharing agreements and stuff like that you see in traditional markets, it's hard to replicate 100% into DeFi. So what needs to happen is probably a more nuanced model and a new regulatory framework. Now, I think we are starting to see some of that. There could be some cases where this infringes on DeFi and it could hurt some DeFi assets, but it could also be a case where you establish a more mature DeFi ecosystem where you actually see more growth.
DeFi comes with a huge risk because of the lack of regulation. Investors and users have no protection or insurance if they lose their cryptocurrency in a protocol or through loaning assets to another user. The risk is well known, but with the huge risk comes huge gains. For traders, the crypto markets remain volatile. In March 2020, a sudden 30% price drop in Ether triggered chaos in the DeFi space. Some investors lost all their collaterals in protocols like MakerDAO. MakerDAO, once considered the DeFi poster child, has been blamed for not fully representing the risk to investors. Rune Christensen, the co-founder of MakerDAO, says the protocol had been prepared for this event and was able to recover from the event, but it was a case that the system hadn't seen before.
It was a disaster, but the Maker protocol and the whole space was able to recover from it, pretty much instantly. Afterwards, the Maker protocol and the community, they then just were able to analyze the situation and then make a whole bunch of adjustments and upgrades to deal with future situations like that.
DeFi summer didn't fix these issues and arguably has led to the rise of gambling protocols in some parts of the space. Still, optimists in the space say MakerDAO's rebound proves DeFi's strength and room to improve.
You can really see the sort of evolutionary potential of decentralized organizations, because anytime there is a loss or defeat, I guess you can say, becomes a really important learning opportunity to then overcome that problem and create resilience.
It will be some time before DeFi can be used in the real world and becomes a household name. But as the crypto space grows, investors are going to continue holding on.
A lot of people in crypto and a lot of institutional investors that are looking at this space really are thinking over a long term. And I think that if you have the patience to wait that out, you're going to see which companies are able to be tested and emerge out of it and continue to be successful.